I love vintage bit braces. I did a whole video about the convenience, the versatility, the torque, the sensitivity of these tools. Now, what's great about them is that there are millions of them out there, so they're inexpensive and they're easy to find. But what's not so great about them is vintage auger bits, because these are much more difficult to find. They're not really available new. Used ones can be in poor condition or need a lot of restoration, and some woodworkers can't get them at all. So why don't we just use our brace with modern bits instead of these old vintage ones? Well, vintage bit braces have a two-jaw shell chuck that's really only designed to take these square shank auger bits. They don't really work with other sizes, so we've got a built-in compatibility issue. These are cheap and easy to find, these are expensive and difficult to find, and we've got to sort this out. Modern hand tool woodworkers need cheap, readily available bits for hand tool drilling, and we've got to do something about these goofy square-shanked bits. It's an issue that has to be dealt with, and I think I'm the guy for the job. I mean, really, who else is dealing with stuff like this?
And once you have a good set, you have a good set. And these two-bladed designs from Irwin and Jennings, they are phenomenal blades. They work incredibly well, and they were the standard for hundreds of years. But the one downside is most all of these chucks are designed for a square tapered bit.
God damn it, James! So the problem is that you can find the brace, but you can't find the bits. Now, when I first bought my bit brace, I had already been working for a long time, and I had dozens of hex shank and round shank drill bits, and I wanted to just use them in my brace. The problem is that this style brace won't grip a round shank at all. It'll grip a hex shank, but only sort of okay. It's not great. Now, you can get this adapter for hex bits. It works fine. I don't know, it's kind of fiddly. There's this little set screw. It makes the tool much longer and more awkward, and changing bits is very slow. Also, if you don't tighten down the set screw enough, you can pull the brace back and leave the bit in the wood. That's really inconvenient too. Overall, I don't like it. What we really need is a whole new brace for a new generation of woodworkers. And believe it or not, I've got something. This is the Garrett Wade Versatile Brace. It costs about 50 bucks, and for the price, the quality is adequate. I mean, I don't love this rattly handle over here, but the pad spins really freely, and they even put a ball bearing under there, which is a nice touch. This thing will last a lot longer. Now, it has a ratcheting mechanism, just like my vintage braces, and the pawls that control the ratchet. Wait a second, listen. Very nice positive action as those snap in and out. And then when you're actually using the ratcheting end, excellent. Pops into each position through the travel, and there's no back and forth slop. Mechanically, this tool is really solid. But what's interesting is the chuck. Now, the chuck that comes on it is a 4-jaw chuck, which just grips square shank auger bits. Nothing exciting there. But watch this. That was supposed to happen because on the inside there is a 1/2-inch socket drive. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but it's kind of huge. This brace now handles anything that takes a 1/2-inch drive, and that is a lot of stuff. This brace takes standard sockets for bolts and lag screws. It also takes impact driver bits. For instance, Garrett Wade makes this nice little set for driving screws, and it works wonderfully. More importantly, there is a huge range of chucks and adapters that fit a 1/2-inch drive. Like, for instance, this hex adapter with a quick-release locking sleeve. Now this is how to get hex bits into your brace. Now you can use spade bits, hex shank twist bits, countersinks, driver bits, and it's actually fast to move them all around. Now, it's no contest. My favorite inexpensive hex shank bits are spade bits. Even a good set is only like $10, and they come in lots of sizes. Spade bits are also easy to sharpen. Now, how about drilling with these in the brace? Well, it's okay, but it's not amazing. That long spur on the bit is hard to engage, and it takes a lot of force. This long spur right here, that has always bugged me. Why is it so big? It's because the spade bit is simple and cheap to manufacture. Compared to an auger, it's an unsophisticated design. especially on the nickers, those little points on the outside that define the hole. These are designed for high-velocity drilling in an electric driver. The long spur actually holds the bit away from the wood until it spins up to full speed. By the time the nickers engage the wood, they're moving fast enough to sever fibers cleanly, and you get a crisp hole, even with the rudimentary design. Now, a vintage auger is just totally different. The threaded snail doesn't just center the bit, it actively pulls the bit into the work. The nickers are a smooth knife shape, and they slice into the wood, even at low speed, and those spiral flutes clear the waste away very effectively. I rarely have to stop and clear the chips with an auger bit. So let's learn from the vintage auger bit and look for some of its features in modern bits. For instance, Daredevil bits are like spade bits, but with a threaded snail and more complex nickers. And how does it work in the brace? Like total garbage. It's actually worse than a regular spade bit. But that's okay. I'm not discouraged. We just need something a little bit more advanced, like this high-quality Forstner bit made by Freud. I love these bits, and they have some of the features that we're looking for our brace. They've got smooth, knife-shaped nickers on either side, and a more advanced geometry that removes wood cleanly. These have always been my top choice for drilling crisp holes with my electric drill. But high-quality bits often don't come in a hex shank, and my vintage brace really won't grip a round-shanked bit. But here's the genius of the socket drive brace. There are tons of half-inch drive, 3-jaw chucks out there. Garrett Wade even sells one, but they're out of stock at the moment, so I grabbed this inexpensive keyless chuck on Amazon. I went with the plastic one on purpose because it's easy on the hands and you can really tighten the thing down. And now, changing bits is super convenient. You can have a drill bit in the chuck and a driver bit in the adapter, and you can just pop the whole chuck off and snap the hex driver in. You don't even have to unscrew the chuck. This is really efficient. And using a Forstner bit in the brace it's actually a little disappointing. The short, unthreaded spur does nothing to pull the bit into the work. It takes a lot of force to push the bit into the work and keep it engaged. Those high-tech nickers are designed for high-speed drilling, just like the spade bits. So the results you get are pretty good. Probably good enough for most things. The bottom line here is that spade and Forstner bits in a brace are decent. They'll get you going, especially if you're strapped for cash or let's say you're working in an apartment and you really have to keep the noise down. Either of these two bits will get you going and you can do decent work with them. But all the testing I've done has shown that when you're using a brace, you really need an auger style bit. So we need to find a new, inexpensive auger style bit that we can just go and buy. In his video, James recommends the wood owl bits sold by Tay Tools. And if James says they're good, you can take that to the bank. But while you're at the bank, you might want to get some cash. These are pricey bits. A 3-bit set is over $50, and a 16-bit set is $300. I believe that these are really good bits, but that's just too much money for a lot of people. But go on Amazon and search auger bits. There are so many of them. Some of the affordable ones must be good, right? Let's start with this Irwin speedbore bit. With 3 flutes and a lead screw, it looks promising, but honestly, the performance is disappointing. The start is very rough, and the nickers just don't slice the wood cleanly. Now, with these bits, I really noticed some inconsistencies in the manufacturing. There were rough edges and burrs left over from the machining. I often fix up cheap tools, so I thought I'd take a crack at these. I worked the insides of the nickers with a fine, round file, and then I stoned the outsides with a diamond hone. These changes should have made a big difference, but they honestly didn't. The drill still enters the wood roughly, and the results are not what we need for fine furniture. My last hope in affordable bits were these ship auger bits. If the design looks familiar, it's because they're a lot like vintage augers. The biggest difference is that they have 1 nicker instead of 2. They have extra large hex shanks, so they won't work with our hex adapter, but our 3-jaw chuck is very versatile and it holds these bits no trouble. On the first one I tried, I was excited. The bit fed smoothly and the edges of the hole were very clean. Unfortunately, the rest of the set wasn't so good. These are inexpensive bits, and the machining was very inconsistent. One of them had a snail that didn't really work at all, and some of the others produced a ragged hole. After a lot of testing, there's just nothing here I can recommend. After all this testing, I figured a few things out. For one thing, the Garrett Wade brace is a totally decent, modern upgrade to our traditional brace. Now, I wish it were a little higher quality for what it costs, but you really can't beat the versatility of this half-inch drive. You can just swap out so many things, and you can use any bit in your collection. I get nothing when you buy this brace. I have no affiliation with Garrett Wade, but I still think it's a pretty good deal, and I will link to it down in the description along with all the chucks, adapters, and bits that I talked about in this video. Now, it's tough for me to get to the end of the video and have to admit that I don't really have a good solution. I love to just deliver it all gift wrap to the audience. But I can't this time, because there doesn't seem to be a solution that's effective, affordable, and readily available for pretty much everybody. A lot of that seems to come down to speed. The speed that a drill is used at, that has a huge effect on the design. If it's spinning very quickly, well, it doesn't have to be quite as complex or well thought out. It's counterintuitive, but a drill bit that goes at low speeds is actually much more demanding. It needs a more complex design and much finer finishing. That's probably why vintage auger bits can be difficult to find, and there aren't too many people making good new ones that will work in a brace. But maybe you know about a good option that I haven't heard about yet. Maybe you can tell me about it down in the comments. Well, stop. Before you do it, here's the criteria. It's got to be affordable, readily available, and you yourself personally must have tried it in a traditional brace and found that it works well. Not something you heard about on a discussion forum, okay? If you have something that fulfills those three of the criteria, please let me know down in the description, because this is going to have to be an ongoing search. I'm going to come back to you at a later date with another video and hopefully show you some better options. Of course, all that is only possible because of my patrons on Patreon. They are the ones who provide the funding that lets me do all of these experiments, buy the tools. I didn't get any of the tools for free. I bought all of them at full retail. And I can make these videos and edit them and put them out and give them away for free because of my patrons. If you'd like to be one of those people, go on over to patreon.com/RexKruger and check out all the rewards and extras that I have for the people who make this content possible. And for everybody who's watching, I so appreciate just having viewers. Thanks for watching.